Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well in this moment in time, and that whenever and wherever you happen to be in this existence, which is an endless sea of expressions, I hope that you are able and willing to accept yourself and others and understand that everybody in the world shows up in a different way, and that there's not going to be a uniform way in which everybody responds or everybody reacts. There's not just one way that people are in the world. Sorry, we were rudely interrupted by the fact that I did not mute the messages from Tim, the Cosmic Threader. I just had sent him a little ditty I created for his show. I sang, and so the next time he publishes his podcast, he's going to have this little less than a minute song I made up for him. Kind of like a fake commercial sort of thing, because that's what he does on his show. Is kind of a jokey, fun thing that I absolutely love. Anyway, so I saw a post today on Instagram, and that's what's kind of sparking this conversation tonight. And I can't even remember what it said. I didn't bookmark it or anything because I didn't think it was very nice. But I'm going to give you the gist of what it said. And it's one of those posts that, you know, someone will grab it as a meme. Like maybe they have a meme generator type of app or something, and then so one person will have it, and next thing you know, 4 or 5 or 6 or 50 people put the same freaking thing on. So if you follow a bunch of twin flame posts, for example, there'll be a bunch of posts that are the same, and it's like nobody knows where the art comes from. They act like it's theirs, but they don't have any relationship to the other 10 people you follow with the same picture. It's one of those. It's not written by the person whose actual account it is, you know. And by the way, I don't do that. If you do follow me on Instagram, I am Mermaid Girl 888, and I always make up my own posts. Unfortunately, they look homemade. They're not like all professional and, black letters on a solid white background to look cool and sleek. I'm just like a very colorful person. If you've been listening to me for a while, you've heard me go off on topics. You know I'm a colorful personality. But if you look at my actual feed, it's also very colorful. I'll get stuck on blue and turquoise for a while, then I'll go to orange, and then I'll go to green, and then I do black and white for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I go back and I just do all pink, I don't know why I can't even be consistent with that, but it's like, it's a color I'm feeling this week. It's blue, and then next week will be green, or it's just the way I am. But But I don't do everything I do is unique. I do original and unique things like the show, and it's just how I am in life. I'm original, one of a kind, baby, and I'm unique. But anyway, I saw this post, and it said something to the effect of, I know the person who put the post up, they said a quote at the bottom, which it said, if you look closely, you'll see that the words or the letters in the word listen, when rearranged, are the same letters that are in the word silent, which I thought was kind of clever. It wasn't this person's. It was a quote they quoted from somebody else with this post, again, from somebody else. But I mean, whatever. A lot of people do that. But the post itself, I'm trying to remember what it says exactly. I'm not going to remember. It was hours ago when I read it. I mean, like 13 hours ago or something. First thing in the morning, one of the first things I saw, and it didn't bother me, but then one person, I thought, well, there are 5 comments. I wanted to look at the comments. Wonder how people are taking it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm taking this the wrong way, which is, it's possible. I always have a different viewpoint than anyone else. I'm always like that oppositional force, but that's why I'm a Heyoka lightning shaman. Heyokas, we always see things quite a bit different than the rest of the world, and we point it out. Always, we just blurt shit out of our mouths. We just blah. And when we do that, it's because we are actually healing other people by waking and shaking them up, giving them the opportunity to go outside of their culture or their own mind or the box they forced themselves into. And we give people a loftier and different perspective. And by loftier, I don't mean I'm better than thou. I don't mean like that. I mean loftier, meaning you rise above the culture, you rise above the emotion of something, you rise above all of the petty differences people have. You rise above everything, and it's like having an eagle's eye view of the land below, the culture below, the people below, and you could kind of look around and go, well, look at those people over there. What are they doing? How are they handling it? Well, they have a different perspective. Oh, wow, look at those people in that country over there. Maybe they have a different culture. They might have something different to say about this. And so, Heyoka, we have a tendency of looking at something from many different angles. And we look at it, we'll look at it from the west, and then we'll look at it from the south. And we'll, it's like we look at something from a lot of different angles. We might get on the ground and lay down and look from the bottom up, or we might fly over something and look from the top down. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I wish I could fly. I can't yet, but I'm going to get my wings. I know it someday. But this post said something along the lines of, if someone is telling you one of their problems and you tell them a story from your life, that you're in the wrong and you need to learn how to shut the F up. It was something along those lines. And I was like, wow, that's extremely judgmental, and I don't agree with it. But I thought maybe I'm wrong. I like to look at everything from a bunch of different angles. Maybe I'm in the wrong, because I do that all the time, right? But I decided, and I determined a long, long time ago, when I was still a teenager, in fact, that I knew my life was really shitty. A lot of stuff that has happened to me in my life has been really crappy. But I decided when I was a teenager that when I grow up, I'm going to share the stories of my life, no matter how terrible, how embarrassing, how heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching it is, because if I could overcome the issues and problems and crap of my life, and then I show people who I am today versus who I was then, or in spite of all the crap that happened to me, that I figured I could be inspirational to people. And I figured that if my life can serve as an example through storytelling, that maybe, just maybe, I might inspire people. I might give people impetus to continue on. I might give people a reason to live. I might save lives with what I have to say. And so I decided from a very early age that this is what I needed to do with my life. And I'm doing it now. And a lot of you do write me and say, oh my God, I'm so glad you told me that, you're divorced and had to raise your kids and you're having problems dating. I relate to that because that was me too. And I had no one to talk about it, and I felt guilty mentioning it. I've had mothers tell me this. And I've had other people say, yeah, I've been in abusive relationships too, and I was so ashamed to tell anybody. But then when I heard you speak up about it, about your experiences dating narcissist people, men, that maybe I could get through it too. If you did, I could do it, right? And I've encouraged women, and I've told them what to do. How do you get away from an abuser? Because I had to do that. I had to live in a domestic violence shelter with my kids. My husband had whispered a sentence in my son's ear. It made my son believe he was going to kill me and take the kids away. So, I lived through a whole lot. And before that, he was an amazing, wonderful man. And then brain cancer took his personality away, and he ended up hating us. It was very weird. Brain cancer is a weird thing, But before that, he was a wonderful man. But he became a really bad person, literally in a matter of months. It was weird. After 13 years together, But so this post, I got to go let my son in. I'll pause this and come right back. All right. So yeah, this post was, to me, in my mind, it was rude. And I felt like they're trying to school somebody specifically in their life. And there was 5 comments, and 4 of the comments said, word, yeah, truth, 1-word answers. Almost this person called up their friends, hey, can you put a 1-word answer? It was so strange. One person wrote 100%, and then, put a couple, emojis. And then one person out of the 5, one person said, put a bunch of crying emojis saying, but I always do that. I thought it was called relating to somebody. I was just trying to be relatable. And it was at that moment that I felt her pain emotionally. Damn it, why do I do this? This is what happens when you're an empath. You just, you feel for somebody, and you let that's like a tunnel in your heart chakra. It opens up, and all of a sudden, the floodgates, the emotions, and that really hurt this person. It really hurt her. I felt her pain. She felt bad about herself, especially since 4 other people agreed with the post, and so she was the only one that had a different perspective. But we live in a sea of possibilities. And I started really thinking about it, and I thought about it, and I thought, So wait a minute. Let me backtrack. Let me get my eagle eye view. Let me fly above this for a minute. And I started thinking about all the things I know and all the things I've experienced, and all the times I have come up with a relatable story. The times I have said, well, that reminds me of the time in which I did this, or someone did this to me, and it's similar to your situation. Let me think on it for a minute. What happened? And then I remembered the times when I said, well, that I don't have any relatable story in my life about that, but my friend did have something similar, and let me see how she handled it. What do you think about that as a solution or whatever? And that's just the way I am. I am a solutions to the problem person. I am a solutions person. In fact, I used to own a business called I Am Solutions. That was like literally the name of my business. I Am Solutions. Back when I had a business where I gave loans up to $10,000 to businesses that were going under because they needed an infusion of cash. And that's what I did for a while. I would give them, I didn't give them my money. I was like the go-between. I was the mediator. I found, I knew the company that had the money, and then they would say, basically, here's your credit card reader. Only use this one in your business, and we will take 10% off the top of every sale you make. And what we suggest is you raise the prices of everything in your store by 10%, and you will literally not even feel any problem at all with anything. But we'll give you the cash infusion, and then we'll take 10% until your $10,000 is paid. And then we'll take another 10%, and bada boom, bada bing, you're done. And we'll never take any money again from your store. It's only, until we're paid back, plus a little bit of interest, not a lot. And then if you ever need another cash infusion, you will always have a line of credit with us because you have our card reader, right? What a cool idea. I was so excited when my friend Vera told me this one. And I did that for a while. But the name of my business, and they said you could come up with a business card and, that'll be your business, but then you're like the go-between for us. So I came up with I Am Solutions, because I also then would counsel people on how else I was a business consultant, and I could tell people what can you do to promote your business in a way you haven't already thought of. I am really good at guerrilla marketing for stores. It's really weird. I'm like a savant in that area. It doesn't translate so much to my marketing for my podcast, and I don't know why. I've got to figure it out. Someday I will. But for brick and mortar buildings, those kind of businesses, I'm like a savant for this stuff. It's very weird. Anyway, and I did that for 1 year, and then it, just kind of fell apart through circumstances not my own. Basically, the first loan I got, I found out the rest of the story later, but boy, I was angry at this woman for about a year until I found out she had a heart attack and almost died, and she couldn't even speak for 3 months, and she was like paralyzed. And then she had to slowly but surely go through like speech therapy and physical therapy, and she's okay now, but she can never work again. And so she defaulted on the loan, and the company stopped working with me because they thought I was in cahoots with this woman, which I wasn't. And I only found out because of her son. Her son and I ended up in a vacuum cleaner sales seminar because I was like, oh shit, I gotta do something else for money because this thing fell through. It was his mother's fault why it fell through, and because his mom had to be at home all the time, so like her karma tied us into her karma. The karma that happened to her, it's like I was looking for something new, and now her son has to look for something new because now he's got to raise his mom, basically, pay for her bills. So I don't know. Karma is weird, man. Karma is a weird thing. But I found the rest of the story, and I was happy because I was unable to continue my anger at her. In fact, I started sending her a lot of love and prayers, and I told him, please, please, please tell your mom I love her and give her a big hug for me because she's such a sweet lady. And so it was nice. It was like, oh, thank God. There's somebody I don't have to hold a grudge against anymore. Virgos be like, no, hashtag Virgo. But anyway, but I was thinking about this, and I was looking at all the different things in my life, right? And how do all the things in my life relate to this post, and why is this post wrong, or why am I wrong? Yeah, maybe they got a point. Maybe I should stop talking about my life. And then I started thinking about all of you guys that have contacted me saying, well, when you told me this about your life, it really helped me because I'm going through a similar thing in my life. And it's like, yeah. And then I started thinking, yeah, wait a minute. Okay, this is the thing. All the people who have ever complained to me about having a relatable story were narcissists. And everybody else in my life who would say something, then I would have a relatable story, either from something I read, or from my life, or from a friend's life, or from someone else's life. Usually the people who were not sociopaths or narcissists, those people were like, huh, and they were very thoughtful about it. Because there's nothing wrong with being a person that has a bunch of stories. It is called storytelling. It is called having a teachable moment. It is for those of us who are light workers and teachers. And storytelling is just my teaching style, And then I further started to think, well, this person drove home the point with the word silent and listen. It's something like, when people come to you with a problem, they just want you to listen. They don't want a relatable story from your life. Or they didn't say the word relatable. They don't want a story from your life. So shut the hell up, or something like that. And I just was like, whoa. And then I was like, well, and then they're acting like they're all enlightened. Oh, snap. They're still stuck with that judgment. Oh my God. Judgment. I know it well. It lived with me for most of my life. Most of my young life especially. I still struggle with judging others, Virgos. It's just comes with the territory of being a Virgo. Because it's only because we judge ourselves so freaking hard. We expect perfection out of ourselves, and when we don't get it, we judge ourselves. And then when other people fall short, we're just like, psst, we judge them too. We criticize them too. And it's like a part of the nature of Virgo, right? And I notice it now, and then I don't judge people hardly at all anymore. But every now and again, I get pissed off about something, and a lot of times I'll just get mad because of the injustice of something. And this post is one of those things. And I wasn't even really mad, but I was a little concerned, especially when I saw this person, and then my heart opened the floodgates to her pain and suffering. And she's probably seen there really beating herself up. Oh, I'm a horrible person. Oh. And it's weird because a lot of people take posts online as the honest to God gospel truth, and it's not always the case. And this is where, of course, discernment is your handy dandy tool. You need to pull out that spyglass of discernment, like Sherlock Holmes. You just want to look closely at things and examine them. And then you want to get really far away from them and see the whole picture. And so I started thinking about it. Well, in what scenario is it healthy for someone to come up to you randomly and just spew their fucking problems? If it's a stranger and it happens to you, it's because you're an empath. And if they expect you not to say anything at all, they might as well be talking to a brick fucking wall. because, you know, that's what they expect, you to be stone cold silent. Well, screw you, because I am a human being and you approached me and you're speaking to me, and I thought this was a conversation, not a soliloquy on your part. I mean, if you're one of these people who has a lot of problems and you want to go up to someone else and start spewing your problems, whether it's a stranger or it's your best friend or your sister or your mother even, when you go up to somebody and you give them your problems and you expect them to be silent, it's A, you're not having healthy boundaries. B, you're making them your therapist and expecting them to act as a highly qualified and trained professional therapist in the mental health field, because they are trained to be silent. And C, you're probably a narcissist because you expect that your problems are the only ones in the world that need to be heard, and that no one else's stories are relevant to you and therefore not important to you. And that you're also, fourth thing, or is that D? I don't know. Did I do four? I don't know if I did letters or numbers there. But the fourth thing is you also have no intention of actually finding a solution for your problem. Your intention is just to spout off your problems to somebody else and lay that burden on them and then walk away scot-free. I'm sorry. Fuck you, though. You know, fuck you very much. I don't think so. You know? It's just like one of those things, and I'm like, why is this bothering me so much now that I got into the conversation? You know, and I only got in the conversation for the sake of this woman who had the crying face emojis that didn't really, it didn't touch my heart as much as when she put in all capital letters, I do this all the time. I thought I was being relatable, and then she put the crying faces. And I was like, was she being relatable though? Was she? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, she was. It is a conversation. Wait a minute. And that's how I unraveled the whole thing. I'm like, oh, all right. Because a lot of people put out, you know, like, I am the mystic of the moon, and that, or whatever the fuck, I don't know. That's not who this was, but I'm trying to make up words or phrases I've seen, you know, spiritual goddess, mystical oracle of the moon, or, you know, leader of all people, or whatever the hell, spiritual guru, jasmine flower. And then they put all these fucking posts that are negative. They display unhealthy boundaries. They're shitty advice and judgmental. But they're the mystical moon oracle goddess Jasmine Moonflower child of Mount Shasta. They're spiritual guru of the daisy field. Well, fuck you, spiritual guru of the daisy field. You're saying you're one thing and you're displaying these posts that are the opposite of what you think you are. Right? You're not there yet. Not saying you're never going to be there, because you're going to be there. Every one of us is going to be there, where we have that loftier, higher version of ourselves, that better perspective where we can see everything and go, ooh, probably we don't want to be teaching that. Maybe that was judgmental. Oh shit, snap, that had no boundaries. And that wasn't smart. That wasn't wise. And that made people feel bad. you know? So it's funny, there's a lot of fake ass gurus out there, fake ass spiritual teachers, people calling themselves a light worker or a light warrior, and then they're using that to justify voting for Trump. He's a Pleiadian, so you know. No, he's a fucking murderer and a child rapist, and he rapes women. He's friends with the guy who had a pedophile island. Enough said. Don't support this fucker. I don't give a shit what planet he originated on. Just saying. So I don't want to even vote in this election. I'm just disgusted by both of the men, to be honest. I mean, Biden will be a better president. No question at all. But it's like choosing between a child rapist and a child molester. I can't even with that. No, I don't have proof Biden is a child molester, but the whole creepy Joe, the whole kid sniffing thing, I mean, the way that women have like pushed their daughters who are afraid towards this man who then touches and smells their hair. I'm sorry, I can't even with that. The energy of that is just too much for me to even handle. You know, it's just too hurtful to see that. And I just pray for the kids that they're okay. But I don't want to get into that. This is not a political show, but I was really contemplating this, you know, because I want to make sure I'm not in the wrong here. I'll delete my comment if I realize, oh shit, I was wrong. But it really bothered me that this woman would say what she said with so much emotion behind it, and the person who posted the post didn't give a flying fig to rush to her and say, I'm sorry, let's have a conversation about that. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is a bad post. I mean, also didn't rush to, you know, say, well, you better stop it. You better knock it off. You know what I mean? At least there was no response from the person who had the post. There was like no responsibility whatsoever. It had been up for hours. The comment had been up for hours. And my comment, of course, was like super long. It always is. It's like I just do the text to speech, and half the time I forget to check the grammar and spelling. It's ridiculous, but you know, it's like, you guys know me. I have a lot to say about these things because I do have relatable stories, right? Usually. And if I don't, I know someone or I'll read a book or I'll go figure it out. So I can help you through storytelling. That is my gift. But I was start thinking about this, and I started thinking about what about all the times in my life that I was talked at for frickin' hours by people I knew who had so many problems, and it felt like, are you walking about your day thinking, I want to call Elena, so let me conjure up, let me summon up as many personal demons as possible today so that I could waste her fucking time for 6 hours a night. Every fucking night. I have had people in my life that did this. Every fucking night. And I didn't have boundaries at the time because I felt like I'm here to help everybody and I needed to help them. And they were my best friends, actually, at the time. So, what's a gal to do? And when they would complain about me trying to relate a story and then they kept talking at me, I didn't know then what I figured out today. And I did just figure it out today. It's like, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe, perhaps, just perhaps, the next time somebody walks up to you and expects you to sit silent like a fucking wall listening to their problems while they spew one thing after another at you, And they expect you to never have a relatable story and expect you never to say anything, but just listen to them so they could use you as a personal dumping ground for their bullshit and never hear a single problem of yours. Maybe next time you should just speak up with a relatable story, and when they complain about it, you could say, well, maybe you might try a therapist next time. They're paid to be a personal dumping ground for people like you. And then maybe, just maybe, the next time they want to tell somebody their story and hope they listen like a brick fucking wall, what's going to happen is they're going to conveniently lose your number. For me, now, I'm looking at this scenario going, well, this is a win-win. So you do you, boo. You do you. You do the thing that you do that makes you special and makes you unique and makes you relatable with your storytelling gift or your whatever it is, however your expression is to show up in the world. And if they can't handle it, they can fuck right off, actually. Because you're not their fucking therapist. You're not their mommy. You're not their nanny. You're not their teacher, and this isn't grade school anymore. I mean, unless you are any of those things, and then, well, revise what I said and, adapt it to your own life. But it just, it kind of goes along the part of the theme for the rest of the week so far, when we were saying things like, it's time to take everybody's emotions that they expect you to suck up like a sponge because you're the empath in the room or in the house or on the block or in the neighborhood. And you know what? For the weak ones that really can't handle it, transmute it, transform it, send them some angels. But the rest of them, send it back. Return to sender, address unknown. 'Cause guess what, baby? Nobody's home. I'm serious. I'm dead fucking serious. Cut off the dead weight. Ask the Arcturians, go listen to last night's episode, if you didn't already. Because think about all those people that are relying on you and somehow they're pulling on you, on your apron strings, your purse strings. They have a string between you and them, and they're holding you down like a bunch of dead weight. And it's holding you back spiritually. And they expect you to listen to their problems without solving anything, because that is their unhealthy boundary dynamic. And you deserve so much better. I deserve so much better. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to hear anyone, when they come to me with a genuine problem and they're seeking a genuine solution and they are actively trying to help themselves. I love that. Let's get into the thick of it. All right. Well, what's going on with your twin flame? He blocked you. Why? Are you running from yourself? Do you not love yourself? Let's go down all the ways in which you're not reflecting the best possible half of this relationship. And if you check all the boxes and you're fine, then it must be him. He might not be your twin flame. He might be, your twin flake. I came up with that one today. People who are flaky and you kind of feel like they're your twin, and you're like, oh yeah, oh my God, I found him finally, thank God. I found her, I found him, oh my God. And then they're so gung-ho about the relationship, and then they start backpedaling. Well, what do you mean you don't want us to see other people? What do you mean you can't be open? What's wrong with you? One of you is going to hear this. I know who you are. You know who you are. And you're laughing right now. He is not your twin flame, baby. We discovered that together, he's not your twin flame. He's your near twin flame, or you could just call him your twin flake, because he's a fucking flake. He's not the right one. But I love helping people with their problems if they're going to seek me out as a solution person, because I am solutions. I always have been. I don't want to hear problems just to lament the problems and focus on the problems and create more problems and create more drama and don't ever get anything done. It's just not me. You know? So from now on, I'm going to do that. You know what? You don't think I should have a relatable story to your problems? I'm sorry. Then don't come to me. Go see a fucking therapist. Don't come to me with your unhealthy boundaries that you want to create more drama and problems, because that's not me. It never has been. You know, I've always had that eagle eye view about this stuff. But today was the day that it all like got into just super sharp focus for me. And I'm like, oh yeah, wait a minute. You need a therapist, or a brick wall. You know, you don't need me. You don't try to come at me acting like it's a conversation when it was just a soliloquy. Hamlet. Fuck you, Hamlet. Just fuck you. You want to have a one-sided conversation? Look in the damn mirror, because I'm out of here. You know? I want to run to my good cup of cheer, and I don't want to have anything to do with you over there. It's just the way I am, you know. I am how I am, and if you're going to complain about how I am, then don't fucking hang out with me, right? Don't come at me. That's the way it should be. And that's the way that you can handle it. You don't have to be as mean as I am. I'm a Virgo, and we tend to have a mean streak. You know, it's like one of those things where people will bulldoze us and we'll comply because we're very sweet, very accommodating. We want everyone to be happy. You know, we'll say yes when we shouldn't. And then it gets to a point where we're like, okay, that's it. You cross the fucking line in the sand. Get the hell on your side of the line in the sand. And I'm going to cut you out of my life now. You crossed too many lines. I mean, it's just how Virgos are. You know, it's like we'll forgive, and then we forget you because it's time you were latered. And I mean, it does get that way with Virgos. But so if you're a Virgo and an empath, you're like laughing your ass off right now, because I know it's true. It's like, you know, it's like we are all too critical of ourselves. We don't need other criticisms coming our way, you know, but I do, with an open mind, look at criticism and go, well, maybe I am wrong about that. And then I will think about it. But then it comes to a point where I'm like, line in the sand's been crossed and that's wrong. And today was just one of those days. And I saw that and I'm like, yeah. And then as I was writing it, God said, this is what you need to talk about in the show tonight, because a lot of people need to know. Have healthy boundaries. Be yourself. And if someone says they don't like the way that you try to solve their problems when they come at you with their problems, maybe they're the ones that need the fucking boundaries. They're the ones that need the therapist. They're the ones that need to check themselves and get out of your face, because you have your own things to deal with. You know, we all have our own things to deal with, especially now. I'm sorry, excuse me, sir, I'm trying to ascend over here with my own set of problems. I'm sensitive to the energy. I'm an empath. I'm managing all the energy of the neighborhood. You don't come out at me with extra problems and then expect that I'm going to react the way you expect me to, because in your world, I'm just a brick wall. I'm a human being and I'm going to have a story. If you don't like that, go to somebody who's deaf or talk to a dog. Look in the mirror, brick wall, something, therapist. Because it ain't me, babe. You know? No, 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 it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe. Love Bob Dylan, God. Ah, boy, that was like super relatable right there. Anyway, I did draw from the Literary Witches Oracle today, or I shall say Archangel Raphael did. I said, what do we need to know? And God said, this is the deck for the day is Literary Witches Oracle, which always is a big fat mystery to me because it did not come with a guidebook. I don't know what the cards really mean. But these two cards fell out, and I asked if they were both the one, that, you know, or the duo cards for the collective today. And so we did. We got a card, Toni Morrison. God bless her. She's amazing. And it says Toni Morrison, and then it says power. And above her head, there's two crows flying. And behind her back, there are these white flowers growing. And I don't know if those are fireflies or what. It's hard to see. But there's like a loaf of bread that has part of it cut. There's spilt milk, and in the milk, an image of what looks like a doll. I don't know what any of this means. I have years ago, I don't remember even anything this woman said, but she was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah just loved her. She was always in Oprah's Book of the Month Club thing. So I don't know, but Toni Morrison, and I honestly should read more of her. I know she's an amazing author. And well, that popped out with, and I said the word crow 2 times today. And one of the times I said, that's ironic, we don't have crows in Ecuador. And I kept saying crow. I said it twice, and then this pops out of the deck, and here it is. She has 2 crows. I don't know what this means, but it might be significant to you. And what popped out with the Toni Morrison card is a card that has a picture of one eye on it. And it says, I, E-Y-E. And then I looked at this and I'm like, holy crap. Toni Morrison did write a book called The Bluest Eye. And I mean, this is a week I'm doing, my posts are all in cobalt blue, something like The Bluest Eye, Toni Morrison, and then says power, and then there's crows. Crows, power over life and death. They are birds that have to do death. Well, if thine eye be single, then thy whole body shall be filled with light. To quote Jesus in the Bible, más o menos. I mean, we don't know what the man really said. We just know what Shakespeare wrote for King James in the King James Version. But basically, if your eye is single, what does that mean? Well, you have 2 eyes, so if you close those guys up, you might still be able to see inside your head with your pineal gland or your third eye. So if your eye is single, meaning if you're only focusing on your third eye, with your physical eyes closed, your whole body will be filled with light. Because that's what happens when you meditate. You focus on your third eye over and over and over again. It took me a year. Holy crap, it took me a year before my body was filled with light. But I kept at it every day. I started off for the first time 5 minutes. Boy, that 5 minutes, it felt like 6 fucking hours. Really. I couldn't do it. I was like hemming and hawing, and my body was suddenly in pain. Then I had a headache. Then I couldn't stop thinking about anything else. And I was fidgeting, like totally ADHD, totally crazy. But a year later, I could sit in silence for 4 hours in a row without moving a muscle. And I still wanted more time. Because when my eye was single, my body did fill with light. and I could leave through my pineal gland, and I could go speak to the masters of light, and I could go to heaven and talk to people that I needed to talk to. I could feel the presence of God with me. It took a freaking long time, but I did it. And now now I sit down and meditate, and 5-10 minutes in, and I'm like, cool, I'm done. I just feel it. I just feel everything up. Now it just takes me like a couple minutes. I just, fill my body with light. I clear out everything. In a matter of seconds, I'm done. And then after that, I could just enjoy the bliss and the peace that come. So I don't know. That's the way I took this card, I. And power. I mean, when you stare in your third eye, you feel your own personal power. You become empowered when you meditate. Now, I don't know what the deal is with the crows over her head. I really want to read her books now. And Toni Morrison, she's such a sweet person. She seems like a very cool person. She's a good author. So check her out. I'm going to put this up in the next 24 hours. I am hoping to get this one along with the card centering from yesterday. So centering and power and I. That's what I'm going to put up tomorrow. All right. Oh my God, the dogs are out of control with their emotions still. Oh my God. I just wish this dog would leave the wolves alone. He's coming over trying to steal their territory or something. I don't know. Anyway, all right. We have less than 10 minutes to get through this really fast. So, all right. Spaceweather.com. Solar wind speed is 513.5 kilometers per second. We are still in the solar wind stream. It's almost over, though. As the sun is kind of turning, it's going to eventually, the solar wind will flow in a different direction away from Earth. So by tomorrow at this time, we won't have that any longer, which is probably, I'm thinking, a good thing. It's there's a beautiful harvest moon that was taken in Spain. This picture, if you want to go to spaceweather.com, the moon is hot orange. It was really interesting. So I'm not going to talk about it because we're running out of time, but it's a really interesting picture. I mean, it looks like a movie moon. It's enormous. This is the harvest moon. It's low in the horizon. It's bright and beautiful. I saw it tonight. Luna, she's up in the sky, and she's very golden moon and very round. It is a full moon in Aries. I told you guys yesterday in the introduction what that means. Ulu neutron counts. The radiation from the cosmos coming our way is 8.8% of the space age average. It's high. And since yesterday, it's gone up by 0.6%. So more radiation today than yesterday. And over the United States, there was reported 8 sporadic fireballs reported by NASA's All-Sky cameras and the All-Sky Fireball Network. And let me see, I think that is all that I typically report from this website. Space Weather is an amazing website. I really love it. Okay, let's see. Schumann resonance today coming out of disclosurenews.it is, well, let me see. It's actually, now the whole website. It's actually 16 hertz frequency. It's like hardly anything. So, but the Heart Math Institute is back up and running. Thank God. The closest that we have is Monday. Oh my God. All of these things I had queued up because I'm so long-winded. It just stopped. Now that I got to see the whole picture, there is what appears to be the shape of almost wings of a, whatever, butterfly, angel, whatever you want to take. But I took a screenshot of this. I'm going to try to put this up as well. Because it's crazy. From the 26th of September, all these places just came down to a point and then went right back up again. It looks like wings. Except for one place in the world, I think Saudi Arabia, they were at 35 hertz frequency, and that's it. Because remember, we were without the Heart Math Institute information for quite a while. All right, so Monday, let's see, where are we? I'm trying to get it over to the 2300 hour. There we go. So, the 2300 hour on Monday, that is the soonest we've got. So we'll take it. Hell, we'll take it. California was at 100 hertz frequency. Remember, 40 is the fifth dimension. So in original, for like 50 years of us clocking the Schumann resonance scale around the world was 7.83 hertz frequency. So these are wild numbers. So Monday in California, they were at 100 hertz frequency. In Saudi Arabia, Hafuf, they were at 0. Lithuania, they were at, and here's our magic number, 144. 144 hertz frequency in Lithuania. In Alberta, Canada, they were at 0. In Northland, New Zealand, they were 75 hertz frequency. And in Honolulu, South Africa, they were at 153 hertz frequency. So everything's starting to look a little bit more normal as to what it was before, but it was weird that the other day everything was just at 0. It was like, what the actual hell is going on? So it's just crazy. It's crazy. So the oceans, I don't think I mentioned this yesterday, the oceans are showing signs of the ice age coming. When the poles melt, we can't keep the earth warm anymore. In the upper hemisphere, there will be it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be literally an ice age. And if you recall stories, maybe you recall stories of woolly mammoths being found with pieces of fresh grass in their mouth. And they were flash frozen. I don't want to scare anybody, but keep it in mind. I would say maybe you might want to get your passport in order and your papers in order, and have some money set aside to be like a bird and fly south for the ice age winter. It's just something you might want to keep in mind. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You got to go more towards the equator. I'm in Ecuador, which literally means equator. And I saw this coming a while back, but this, and not psychically, just logically, scientifically, not, it's not like I've had a vision or anything, but some of the things are going on. It just seems like we're getting closer to it than ever before. And we still might be a few years out, but I mean, keep it in mind. Just want to throw it out there. I want you guys to be safe and logical. It's like the show is metaphysical, and I like to look at the science that does help to explain some of the crazy stuff, like the ascension symptoms that we're feeling. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, guys, and when I come back, we're going to go over Turkish fairy tales. That is fairy tales or folk tales from the country of Turkey. I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about it for a while. I was watching The Gift, which is on Netflix, about a woman who has a special supernatural spiritual connection to Göbekli Tepe, the navel of the universe. That's what they're calling it. And today I met a woman who also loves the same exact show. She's from Turkey. And we had a conversation of, well, if you ever come here, I'm going to show you Göbekli Tepe. I'm like, hot to damn, I'm going to be there soon. I don't know when, but someday. And I also talked to another man who, for some reason, in my mind, I had him as being from Egypt. And today he told me he's from Turkey. I'm like, you know what? It's time for Turkish fairy tales. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, yeah, even my son and I had a conversation about turkey lunch meat. That whole nother thing. Anyway, I'm going to take a break. When I come back, Turkish folk tales right after this quick message. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, guys, so the first story coming out of fairytales.com, and this is found at fairytalez.com, fairytales.com. This one's called Fear, and it's funny because I was, I don't know, I ran across the word fear the other day, and I was thinking, it means fuck everything and run. And then I'm like, wait a minute. No, it doesn't. It means false evidence appearing real. Oh, yeah. Or face everything and react. You know, and all these weird acronyms came up for what fear really is, you know. And it's just one of those subjective things. It's like different for every person. But anyway, I thought it might be the first story that we read tonight from the Turkish fairy tales or folk tales, and we'll see what they have to say. So this is by Dr. Ignas Kunos. I don't know how to speak at all in Turkish, but so I might not even pronounce that right, but I'm doing my best. Fear, F-E-A-R. Okay, here we go. Once, a very long time ago, there was a woman who had a son. Sitting both together one evening, the mother said to her son, "Go, my child, and shut the door, for I have fear." "What is fear?" the boy asked his mother. "When one is afraid," was her answer. What then can this thing fear be?" pondered the son. "I will go and find it." Well, so he set out, and he came to a mountain where he saw 40 robbers who lighted a fire and then seated themselves around it. The youth went up and greeted them, whereon one of the robbers addressed him. "No bird dares to fly here. No caravan passes this place. How then dost thou dare to venture? And so the little boy says, I am seeking fear. Show it to me. For fear is here where we are, said the robber. Where? Inquired the youth. Then the robber commanded, Take this kettle, this flour, fat, and sugar. Go into that cemetery yonder and make helwa. I think he means like helva. I love that stuff. It's really good. Oh, that's a good recipe. All right. Getting back to the story. I love helva, especially when it has the sesame seeds in it. Okay, never mind. Take this kettle, this flour, fat, and sugar, go into that cemetery yonder, and make helva therewith. It is well, replied the youth, and went. In the cemetery he lit a fire and began to make the helwa. As he was doing so, a hand reached up out of the grave, and a voice said, Do I get nothing? Striking the hand with the spoon, he answered mockingly, Naturally, I should feed the dead before the living. The hand vanished, and having finished cooking the helwa, the youth went back to the robbers. Hast found it? They asked him. No, replied he. All I saw was a hand which appeared and demanded helwa. I struck it with a spoon and saw no more of it. The robbers were astonished. Then another of them remarked, Not far from here is a lonely building. There you can no doubt find fear. He went to the house and entering saw on a raised platform a swing in which was a child weeping. In the room a girl was running hither and thither. The maiden approached him and said, Let me get upon your shoulders. The child is crying and I must quieten it. He consented, and the girl mounted. While thus occupied with the child, she began gradually to press the youth's neck with her feet until he was in danger of strangulation. Presently, with a jerk that threw him down, the girl jumped from his shoulders and disappeared. As she went, a bracelet fell from her arm to the floor. Picking it up, the youth left the house. As he passed along the road, okay, I don't know how to take this, so I'm just going to say what it says, but it says, a Jew, seeing the bracelet, accosted him. I don't know why they're pointing out the person's religion. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's important in the story. Maybe not. We'll find out. Anyway, seeing the bracelet, accosted him. That's mine, he said. No, it's mine, was the rejoinder. Oh, no, it is my property, retorted the Jew. Well, then let us go to the Cadi. I don't know what that means either. C-A-D-I. The Cadi, maybe, said the youth. If he awards it to thee, it shall be thine. If, however, he awards it to me, it remains in my possession. So accordingly they went, and the Cadi said, The bracelet shall be his who proves his case. Well, that's fair. At least it's fair. Neither, however, was able to do this, and finally the judge ordered that the bracelet should be impounded until one of the claimants should produce its fellow, when it would be given up to him. So the Jew and the youth then parted. I mean, maybe they're like separating it out because we're supposed to think that the youth, the little boy, is Muslim. Maybe, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I'm not totally comfortable with that. Just saying from my perspective here. All right, back to the story. On reaching the coast, the boy saw a ship tossing to and fro out to sea and heard fearful cries proceeding from it. He called out from the shore, Have you found fear? And was answered with the cry, Oh, woe, we are sinking. Woe, W-O-E, not whoa, dude. I don't know, just want to point that out. Quickly divesting himself of his clothes, he sprang into the water and swam toward the vessel. Those on board said, "Someone is casting our ship to and fro. We are afraid." The youth, binding a rope around his body, dived to the bottom of the sea. There he discovered that the daughter of the sea, Denise Kesey, I guess, was shaking the vessel. He fell upon her, flogged her soundly, and drove her away. I'm assuming daughter of the sea. I'm thinking that's a mermaid. What do you guys think? Anyway, then appearing at the surface, he asked, "Is this fear?" Without awaiting an answer, he swam back to the shore. He dressed himself and went, so he jumped on a mermaid while he was naked. I'm assuming he was in his underwear. Let's just assume that. Let's just assume maybe even further that he had a Speedo on under his clothes. Because this is too awkward. Now, as he walked along, he saw a garden in front of which was a fountain. He resolved to enter the garden and rest a little. 3 pigeons disported themselves around the fountain. They dived down into the water, and as they came up again, they shook themselves, and each was transformed into a maiden. Oh yeah, because that happens. Then they laid a table with drinking glasses. When the first carried a glass to her lips, the others inquired, "To whose health drinkest thou?" She answered, "To that of the youth who, in making halva, was not dismayed when a hand stretched out to him from a grave." And the second maiden drank, and the others asked again, "To whose health thou drinkest now?" And the answer was, "To the youth on whose shoulders I stood, and who showed no fear, though I nearly strangled him." Hereupon the third took up her glass. "Of whom art thou thinking?" questioned the others. "Ah, in the sea, as I tossed a ship to and fro," the maiden replied, "a youth came and he flogged me so soundly that I nearly died. I drink to his health." Well, that sounds like that's an unhealthy relationship right there, but I digress. Hardly had the speaker finished when the youth himself appeared and said, "I am that youth." It's like, I am that witch. Okay. All 3 maidens hastened to embrace him, and he proceeded. "At the Cadiz, I have a bracelet that fell from the arm of one of you. A Jew who would have deprived me of it." Well, he thinks it's his. This guy thing is a little bit, I don't know what that is, but that's not right. Anyway, "but I refused to give it up, and I am now seeking its fellow." What does that even mean, its fellow? The maidens took him up to a cave, where a number of stately halls opened before him and overwhelmed him with astonishment. Wow, each cave was filled with gold and costly objects. The maidens here gave him the second bracelet, with which he went directly to the Cadi and received the first. Oh, I see. The fellow meaning all bracelets have a twin flame bracelet? What does that even... Okay, all right, let's just go with the story. Let's flow with it, roll with it. So, there we go. He returned without loss of time to the cave. "You part from us no more," said the maidens. "That would be very nice," replied the youth, "but until I have found fear, I can have no rest." Saying this, he tore himself away, though they begged him earnestly to remain. Presently, he arrived at a spot where there was an immense crowd of people. "What is the matter?" inquired the youth, and was informed that the Shah of the country was no more. A pigeon was to be set free, and he on whose head the bird should alight, thank God they didn't say, alight, okay, would be declared heir to the throne. The youth stood among the curious sightseers. The pigeon was loosed, wheeled about in the air, and eventually descended upon the youth's head. He was at once hailed as the Shah. Well, that's like a lame-ass way to pick a leader of a country. But, okay, whatever. Oh, hey, you got a pigeon on your head. Oh, is that what that is? Cool, you're the king. Bing! Like, what the? This is a crazy story. All right. He was at once hailed as Shah, but as he was unwilling to accept the dignity, a second pigeon was sent up. And this one also rested on the youth's head. I'm thinking he shouldn't have put the French fries on his hair, but I mean, okay, I digress. The same thing happened a third time, and they said, "Thou art our Shah," shouted the people. "But I am seeking fear. I will not be your Shah," replied he, resisting the efforts of the crowd to carry him off to the palace. His words were repeated to the widow of the late ruler, who said, "Let him accept the dignity for tonight. At least tomorrow I will show him fear." So the youth consented, even though he received the not very comforting intelligence that whoever was Shah one day was on the following morning a corpse. Passing through the palace, he came to a room in which he observed that his coffin was being made and water was being heated. What? Why do you need hot water for that? Never mind. Nevertheless, he lay down calmly to sleep in this chamber, and when the slaves departed, I do not like that either, he arose, took up the coffin, set it against the wall, lit a fire around it, and reduced it to ashes. And once this was done, he lay down again and he slept soundly. When morning broke, the slaves entered to carry away the new Shah's corpse, but they rejoiced at beholding him in perfect health, and hurried to the Sultana with the glad tidings. She thereupon called the cook and commanded, "When you lay the supper tonight, put a live sparrow in the soup dish." Evening came, and the young Shah and the Sultana sat down to supper, and as the dish was brought in, the Sultana said, "Lift the lid of the dish." "No," answered the youth, "I do not wish for soup." "But please lift it," repeated the Sultana persuasively. Now as the youth stretched out his hand, lifted the lid, a bird flew out. The incident was so unexpected that it gave him a momentary shock of fear. "Seest thou," cried the Sultana, "that is fear." "Is it so?" asked the youth. "Thou wast indeed afraid," replied the Sultana. Then the marriage feast was ordered, and it lasted 40 days and 40 nights. The young Shah had his mother brought to his palace, and they lived happily ever after. Well, that was a strange story. So if a bird flies out at you, that's what fear is? What do you guys think about that? That was a strange story. All right, we're going to look for another one. I got to pause this for a minute while I seek one out. All right, so before we get into the next story, I wanted to read the little introduction I forgot to read, like I usually do when we do fairy tales. Excuse me. It's something we do every 6 to 8 weeks or so. Sometimes once a month, but it's been a while since we've done fairy tales or folk tales. So in this website, they have Turkish fairy tales from the authors, Dr. Ignas Kunos and also Andrew Lang. So they say Turkish folklore is full of stories featuring supernatural creatures such as dragons, elves, wizards, genies called dews, D-E-W-S, and more. So that's a jinn or a genie. So here you might find stories of the similar theme or plot to those that you'd find in the Brothers Grimm or other European fairy tales. Now, for example, the tale, The Brother and the Sister, share the same story elements as a Grimm fairy tale, Brother and Sister. However, it's a bit more violent. On the whole, Turkish fairy tales, particularly those by Dr. Ignas Kunos, the author of 44 Turkish fairy tales, should be considered violent by today's standards. However, they are a priceless part of the region's folklore. Even folklorist Andrew Lang found a few tales to include in his fairy tale collection, but he rewrote them for a younger crowd. And Robert Nisbet Bain was also infatuated with 44 Turkish fairy tales, and he even published his own collection that had been translated from the Hungarian edition. So I just wanted to read that. I thought that was interesting, all the supernatural creatures that can be found in their stories here. So I found a strange looking one, the horse Dew and the witch. Now remember, Dew means jinn or genie. So the horse genie or horse jinn. Very odd. Okay, so the horse Dew, D-E-W, and the witch. And this is Ignash Kunos, so my apologies if it gets violent. Supposedly it's a 10-minute read. We shall see. All right. Once a padishah had 3 daughters. Before setting out on a journey, he called the daughters before him and instructed them to feed his favorite horse personally, and not to entrust that duty to any other, as he would allow no stranger near it. The padishah went away, and the eldest daughter carried food to the stable. The horse, however, would not permit her to approach him. The second daughter made the attempt with no better result. Then the youngest went to the horse, who was perfectly quiet, and willingly received the food and drink from her hands. The 2 eldest sisters were glad thus to be relieved of an irksome and disagreeable duty. When the padishah returned home, and by the way, I have no idea what the hell a padishah is, just saying. When the padishah returned home, his first inquiry was as to whether his horse had been properly attended to during his absence. He would not allow us to even go near him, answered the 2 elder daughters, but our youngest sister has fed him. Upon hearing this, the monarch, he's a monarch. Okay, guess it's some kind of a king. So on hearing this, the monarch said that she should be, this is freaking weird, wife to the horse. Okay, this is like taking animal husbandry to a whole nother level. Like a West Virginia level. Okay, I'm sorry. I've seen your laws. They're weird. Okay. On hearing this, the monarch said that she should be wife to the horse, his other daughters being given in marriage to the vizier and Sheikh ul Islam, respectively. The triple wedding festivities, they really had a wedding to literally marry a girl to a horse. I said it was a weird story. I didn't know it got that weird. I didn't know it was that kind of party. This is so weird. All right, we'll keep reading it. We'll keep seeing where it goes. So the triple... Oh, man. All right. The triple wedding festivities lasted 40 days, and the youngest then went to her stable, while her sisters were taken to their splendid palaces. Only in the daytime, however, had the youngest sister a horse for a husband and a stable for a dwelling. By night, the stable was transformed into a rose garden, and the horse into a handsome youth. Well, that's convenient. Thus, they lived in the utmost felicity. Of course, that means happiness. No one except themselves, of course, knowing their secret. This is really odd. But I like where it's going. It's now taken a turn for the better, I guess. It came to pass that the padishah arranged a tournament in the courtyard of the palace, and the bravest of all the knights who took part therein were the husbands of the monarch's eldest daughters. "Look," they said to their sister of the stable, "our husbands are like lions, See how beautifully they throw their lances. Where is your horse husband? What the hell? At this, the horse shook himself, changed into a human form, mounted a steed, and begging his wife not to reveal his identity, he plunged into the fray. He overcame all the combatants, unhorsed his brothers-in-law, and then vanished as completely as though he had never been there. So next day the tournament was continued, and the older sisters treated the youngest one with scorn and contempt. But again, that's like not a treat at all. Treated her. Oh, right. The other meaning of treat. So next day the tournament was continued, and the elder sisters treated the youngest with scorn and contempt. But again, the unknown hero appeared, struck down all his opponents, and vanished as before. On the third day the horse knight said to his wife, "If at any time I am in danger or you are in need of help, burn these 3 hairs. Wherever you may be, I will come to you." Then he hastened the tournament and fought again with his brothers-in-law. His prowess evoked universal admiration. Even his sisters-in-law could not withhold their tribute of praise. But in ill-natured raillery, they said to their youngest sister, "See how these knights understand the tournament? They are not like your horse husband." The poor woman could no longer forbear to answer that the beautiful and valiant knight was her husband. But even as she turned to point him out, he vanished. This reminded her that he had warned her never to divulge the secret. Overcome with remorse, she awaited eagerly his return to the stable, but in vain, because neither horse nor man came. Neither roses nor garden were to be hers that night. "Oh, woe is me," she groaned. "I have betrayed my husband. I have broken my promise. Thus I am punished." She did not close her eyes all night, but wept until morning. When it was daylight, she went to her father, the Padishah, and with tears told him what had happened, vowing that she would go in search of her husband, even if she journeyed to the ends of the earth. In vain, her father attempted to dissuade her. He reminded her that her husband was a dew, meaning, genie or jinn, and consequently she would never find him. But all his arguments failed to shake her resolution. Well, that's true, because jinn, they live in their own realm, and we're never allowed to follow. So we could never ever find them, even if we wanted to, even if they wanted us to. It's impossible. They're from another dimension. All right, back to the story. Grief-stricken, she set out on her quest and walked so long that at last she sank exhausted at the foot of a mountain. Here, remembering the 3 hairs, she burned one of them, and the next instant her husband enfolded her in his arms. Both were almost speechless with joy. "Did I not counsel you never to betray our secret to anyone?" gently chided the youth. "If my mother sees us now, she will separate us immediately. This mountain is our abode. My mother will be here directly, and woe to us if she catch sight of us." The poor girl was terrified at these words, grieving bitterly that no sooner had she found her husband than she must lose him again. The dew son pitied her, gave her a light blow. That's weird. Give her a light blow, and changed her into an apple. What the hell? Which he put upon a shelf. Shrieking loudly, the witch flew down from the mountain, crying that she could smell human flesh, and human flesh she must have. Well, that's not how witches are. So, again, with the, I don't know, anti-witch sentiment. In vain her son denied it. She refused to believe him. If you will swear on the egg to do it no harm, I will show you what I have hidden, said the youth. The witch accordingly promised, whereon the youth gave the apple a light blow, and the beautiful maiden appeared. Behold, my wife, said he. The old woman said nothing, but set her daughter-in-law some simple tasks and went back to her work. Now for a few days the husband and wife were allowed to live in peace. But the old witch was waiting till her son went away from home to wreak her vengeance upon his wife. At last she found an opportunity. Sweep and don't sweep, she commanded the maiden, and went away. The poor girl was perplexed to know what she must sweep and what not sweep. Recollecting the hairs, she took one and burned it. Instantly her husband appeared, and she told him her difficulty. He explained that she must sweep the room and not sweep the courtyard. The maiden acted accordingly. Towards the evening, the witch came in and asked whether the work was done. I have swept and not swept, answered the daughter-in-law. You deceitful thing, scolded the old woman. You have not thought that out for yourself. My son has certainly taught you. The next day the old witch came again and gave the maiden 3 bowls, which she ordered her to fill with her tears. The maid wept and wept continually, but failed to fill even one of the vessels. In her difficulty, she burned the 3rd hair, whereupon her husband appeared and advised her to fill the bowls with water and add a quantity of salt therein. Thus the maiden did, and when the old woman came home in the evening, she was shown the 3 vessels duly filled. You cunning creature, stormed the witch, that is not your own work, but you and my son shall not cheat me again. On the following day she ordered her daughter-in-law to make a pancake, but though the maiden sought everywhere, not a single ingredient for the purpose could she find. This time she could expect no help, for her husband was away and the 3 magic hairs had all been burned. The youth, however, suspecting his mother's wicked intentions, returned home unexpectedly to his wife, and seeing her in such grief, he suggested that they should flee. My mother will not rest until she has wrought your ruin, he said. Let us escape before she returns. So then they went together out into the wide world. In the evening, the witch came home and saw that both her daughter-in-law and her son were missing. The wretches have abandoned me, she shrieked, and calling her witch sister to her, she sent her to follow the fugitives and bring them back. The second witch got into a bowl, made a whip out of snakes, and was of like a lightning flash. Well, that's pretty crazy, man. That's like so psychedelic. She got into a bowl and then had snakes to help steer, I guess. A whip out of snakes. But the Dew son seeing his aunt behind them in the distance, gave the maiden a light blow and changed her into a swimming bath. He transformed himself into a bath attendant and stood before the door. The witch came up, alighted from the bowl, and inquired of him whether he had seen a youth and a maiden. "I am just warming the bath," answered the youth. "There's nothing in it. There's no one in. If you do not believe me, go in and see for yourself." The woman perceiving she could do nothing with him, re-entered the bowl, went back to her sister, and reported the failure of her errand. The witch asked her whether she had met anyone on the way. "Oh, yes," answered she. "I spoke to the attendant of the door of a swimming bath, for he was either deaf or stupid, for I could get nothing out of him." "You were even more stupid," scolded the witch, "not to recognize that the bath and attendant were my daughter-in-law and son." Now she called another sister and sent her after the fugitives. All right, I'm going to pause this for a second. The Dew's son, looking back, saw his other aunt coming towards them in a bowl. He knocked his wife gently, and she became a spring. He himself stood beside and drew water. The witch came up and asked whether he had seen anything of a youth and a maiden. "This spring has excellent drinking water," the fellow answered with an air of simplicity. The woman, thinking he was too stupid to answer her questions, hurried back to her sister with the intelligence that she could see nothing of the missing couple. The witch inquired whether she had seen anyone on the way. "Oh, only an imbecile drawing water from a spring," was the answer. "That imbecile was my son," exclaimed the witch in a great rage, "and the spring was his wife. I see I shall have to go myself." So she stepped into the bowl, made a whip out of snakes, and set off. Looking back, the youth now saw that his mother herself was coming. Striking the maid gently, he turned her into a tree, and himself into a snake coiled around it. The witch knew them and would have torn the tree to pieces if she could have done so without harming her son. So she said to the snake, "My son, at least show me the little finger of the maiden, and then I will leave you in peace." The son saw only that the way to get rid of his mother was to do as she asked. He therefore allowed one of the maid's fingers to become visible. This his mother immediately devoured and then vanished. At another gentle blow from her husband, the maid once again resumed her human form, and the two went home to her father, the Padishah. His talisman having been destroyed, the youth became a mortal, and as he was no longer a Dew, his witch mother had no more power control over him. The Padishah rejoiced in the return of his lost children. Their marriage was then celebrated, and with great pomp. And after the old monarch's decease, they reigned in his stead. Oh my God, guys, I took a break to find another story, And this just in from Variety. President Donald Trump and Melania Trump test positive for coronavirus. I'm going to report this because, holy man, this guy who said he doesn't want to wear a mask and created the whole anti-masker movement, made a big political thing, big stink about it. And guess what? Well, guess what, guys? He's got the virus. And all those people that said the virus didn't exist. Holy man. Okay, I don't want to take too much away from our show, but they're going to begin the quarantine and recovery process immediately. And Trump said, "We will get through this together." That's what he tweeted. And he said they're feeling good. They're having to postpone all their upcoming engagements. Please be sure that you're staying safe. We'll all get through this together, he says. So, wow. He says the White House medical team and I will maintain a vigilant watch, and I appreciate the support provided by some of the country's greatest medical professionals and institutions, Conley said. Rest assured, I expect the president will continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering. I'll keep you updated on my future or any future developments. So, wow, the CDC is calling anyone who tests positive to isolate themselves for 10 days. Very strange. That's, I mean, right before the election. Wow. This is incredible. I mean, I'm not saying it's great. I mean, I don't wish this virus on anybody, ever. But wow, what an incredible turn of events. An incredible meaning, like, wow, I can't believe this happened. I mean, we all guessed it was going to happen, but the fact that it happened, just what? Wow, wow, wow. Very, very, I just did not expect it. I really didn't. Not before. I expected it months ago. So what? Wow. I'm sorry, my mind is just mind blown. All right. And back to our fairy tales. Okay, I found one that's a 2-minute read. It's very short. It's called The Creation. And I had to pause it for a minute, and I started to fall asleep. I'm being bombarded by the solar winds. It's at the very end, but boy, it just packed a punch. I don't know if you guys felt that, but woo-wee. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, Ecuadorian time, which is 11 o'clock at night, California time. I don't know, you can figure out what time it happened where you are, in your neck of the world, neck of the woods. I don't know, but wow. Big, huge ascension symptom there for a few minutes. Anyway, this is a story by Dr. Ignace Kunos, and it's called The Creation. Here we go. Allah, the most gracious God, whose dwelling place is the seventh heaven, completed the work of creation. 7 planes has the heaven, and 7 planes also the earth, the abode of evil spirits. Yeah, earth is the abode of evil spirits. Great. It's totally true. In the heavenly ways reside the Peris, or good spirits. In the earthly darkness, the dews, or evil spirits. Okay, well, I think Peris are akin to angels, and the dews are the jinn, but not all the jinn are evil, by the way. I just happen to know that. So, I have worked with some jinn, and when you give them love and respect, like anyone, they're actually quite pleasant. All right, so in the earthly darkness are the dews, or the evil spirits. The light of heaven is in conflict with the darkness of earth, the Peris with the dews. The Peris soar to heaven high above the earth, but the dews sink down into the darkness under the earth. Mountains bar the road to heaven, and only the good spirits can reach the copper range, whence the way is open to the silver mountains and the hills of gold. Evil spirits are blinded by the ineffable radiance of heaven. Their dwelling place is the depths of the earth, the entrance to which is at the spring of waters. There tarry the white and the black sheep, into whose wool the evil spirits penetrate, and are so conveyed to their realm on the seventh plane. On the white sheep they return to the earth's surface. Peris and dews are powerful, and both were witnesses of the creation of earth's original inhabitant, the first man. Allah created the first man and appointed him the earth for his dwelling place. And when the first mortal appeared upon the earth, and the Peris rejoiced over Allah's wonderful work, the father of evil beheld it, and envy overcame his soul. Straightway he conceived a plan whereby to bring to naught that beneficent work. He would implant the deadly seed of sin in this favored creature of the Almighty, and soon the first man, all unsuspecting, received on his pure body the damnable spittle of the evil one, who struck him therewith in the region of the stomach. But Allah, the All-Merciful, the overcomer of all things, hastened to tear out the contaminated flesh and flung it to the ground. Thus originated the human navel. I thought this might be a belly button story. The piece of flesh, unclean by reason of the evil one's spittle having defiled it, obtained new life from the dust, and thus almost simultaneously with man was the dog created, half from the human body and half from the devil's spittle. Oh my God, we're going to explain where dogs come from also, right after the human navel. That is so strange. Thus it is that no Mahometan, I think it's people who read Muhammad's works, praise and blessings be upon him. So, thus it is that no Mahometan will harm a dog, though he refuses to tolerate him in his house. The animal's faithfulness is its human inheritance. Its wildness and savagery are from the evil one. In the Orient, the dog does not increase, for while the Muslim is its protector, he is at the same time its implacable enemy. That's a very strange story. So strange. All right, well, I have something to tell you guys. In Saudi Arabia, when Muhammad walked the earth and he was alive, like, is either in the 1400s or 1400 years ago. I always get that mixed up. My dyslexia, I don't know. I think it might have been in the 1400s is when the archangel, this is the way the story goes, Archangel Gabriel came and gave him the book of the Quran, and he couldn't read or write, so he had the scribes come in, and he felt that the Ali, the baby, he was a baby at the time, needed to be there in the cave with him where the angel kept appearing. So Ali could also see the angel and hear the angel as well. And so thus were the two first saints in Islam created. Not that they would ever say that about themselves. But it took 40 years to write the Quran. It's a lot of time. Or maybe he was 40 and it took 26 years, something like that. Anyway, a lot of years, not just like a few months, right? So, anyway, there was a lot of books that were written about the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Praise and blessings be upon him, I have to say, because I actually am a Muslim by religion. But he would talk about how you're not supposed to touch dogs. But in that time in Saudi Arabia, all the dogs were strays, and they carried diseases. They had diseases in their fur. They had, things wrong with them, like the mange and stuff. So he admonished people, do not ever touch the dogs, and they're dirty. Don't have them in your home. Just keep them, don't, be nice to them, but, keep them outside. Don't do anything with them. And there is a story about how one day, I guess, the Prophet Muhammad saw a dog in the street, and there was something in his heart that was touched by the appearance of this dog, and the dog walked calmly up to him, and he pet the dog between the eyes, kind of on its, between the eyes and on its forehead, that little region, just with a couple fingers. He just pet the dog, and was very kind to the dog, and gave him food, and the dog went on its way. And just recently, in the past, I would say a couple decades, researchers who were also Muslim wanted to find out why the Prophet Muhammad touched that part of the dog, versus like behind its ear or under its chin or something. And so they set about finding all the different parts of a dog that, just to see, like, what's the germ content. So they took a random dog and they just tested. I think they did this with many dogs. Let's test it under its armpit. Let's test it on its back. Are there diseases on its belly? And they found out that dogs are pretty dirty, especially, the stray dogs. They're pretty dirty creatures, with one exception. The part of the dog between its eyes going on into their forehead, they found out that it's like the only region on a dog that is germ-free, which is the exact same place where the Prophet Muhammad had touched a dog. And it's like he kind of blessed it as he was touching it. So I thought that was a very strange story, but also very interesting. And in Saudi Arabia, in Arabic, when people are mad at each other, I find there's a lot of innocence in this culture. And it's not a bad thing. I have spent a lot of time with men from Saudi Arabia, and specifically from the Shia Islam, part of Islam. There's Sunnas and Shias, and so the Shias are very small in numbers compared to Sunnah, which is most of the Muslims in the world. And I took my oath, or my Shahada, as a Muslim in the Shia tradition, because I believe that Imam Ali was a saint, and he was important and powerful, and energetically, like with having a connection with divine and seeing angels and whatnot. Not incarnate angels, because that's no easy feat. he had his third eye opened. So, and here we go again with the card of the day, the eye and power. See, this is all, I love when the whole show kind of has a theme for the night. I love it. So, anyway, when I was hanging around with these guys for 2 years in California, they were trying to learn English, and I was their neighbor. And so I and my children would always hang out with the Saudi Arabian men. They're very sweet and had a lot of innocence about them. And when they got angry at each other, usually the anger came about during games, one particular game called Asaf, which means in Arabic, sorry. And this game lent itself to the American version of the game called Sorry, where the pawns go around the board, and when someone else lands on the same square as you, they can knock your pawn off and send you back to the beginning. You have to start over, and then you have to go, sorry, kind of sarcastically. But this came from Saudi Arabia. It's an ancient game, and the guys would get bed sheets or sheets of fabric from the fabric store, and they would draw a sorry game or asaf, and they would come up with all the different they would make the squares, and then they would make the everyone would get their own little trinket. Some people would play with a coin, some with a little miniature Bic lighter, and just like with Monopoly, all the little parts that go around the board, and everybody would play with their own thing. I mean, like someone would use an M&M, it was pretty wild. But the games would get very, very heated, and when they would get mad, like they would start yelling at each other in Arabic. And from what I could gather, like someone accused someone else of cheating, or, you shouldn't say sorry because you weren't on the same square as me, and they would just start getting really heated, really upset. And sometimes they would bust out with Kelb Ajarab. Kelb Ajarab. Kelb Ajarab. Yeah, and they would get really mad. And they would call each other Kelb Ajarab, and that means dog with a rash. I mean, there was other insults that were hurled about. Haruf Ajarab, sheep with a rash. But the idea of having a rash was the worst thing that they said to each other, which I found very innocent and very sweet, compared to some of the things I've heard people say to each other in my culture. So anyway, a dog with a rash is one of the worst things you could be. But if you ever want to pet a dog and be safe, remember, between the eyes and just a little bit, like in their third eye region. And the legend has it that because Prophet Muhammad touched a dog there, forevermore all dogs will have no germs on that part of their body, because he was a saint or a master. So, very strange. I love how the legends crop up around these stories. But anyway, that story kind of related, and here I am with the storytelling and relating thing. But this is how it related to this past story called Creation. And thus we are going to close out the evening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. And I'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow with all unique and original programming, just like always. Inshallah, which is what they also say in Turkey, which just means as God wills it. I grew up in Minnesota, where my stepmom would always say, well, God willing and the creeks don't rise. And that's a very colorful version of, well, inshallah, or as God, if God allows it, I'll be back tomorrow. If I don't die, something doesn't horribly go wrong. If I don't become a Kalbajarab, dog with a rash, I'll be back tomorrow. So I want to say thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and favoriting and forwarding. Tell everybody about the show that is going through spiritual awakening. It's very needed at this time that we get the word out about the show so that we can help people lift up into the fifth dimension. Farther and farther in. We're already there, but we got to keep going up, so that we can free ourselves, rise above duality and polarity, and once again, be in unity and harmony with everybody. So there you have it. Tomorrow is Friday, which means it is the Earth Changes Report and Weekly Weird World News tomorrow. And that's what we're going to do when we come back. So that's it for now, though, guys. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for your continued faith and confidence in me and my abilities and the show. So that's it for now. I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the Holy Fifth Dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.